All right, a decision today by New York's highest court makes it easier for people living in the state part of the year to get a handgun license. The Court of Appeals says New York pistol permits are not limited to people with their primary residence in the state. And joining us now, our political analyst, New York Post state editor Fred Dicker, who knows a bit more about this and is here now to tell us that. Hey, Fred.
Hi, Liz. Let me first say, by way of disclosure, that the person bringing the case, Alfred Osterweil from Schoharie County, is my cousin. He lives in New York part-time. He's a full-time resident, though, legally, of Louisiana. He's a very skilled lawyer, and he made the case that you can't limit Bill of Rights, First or Second Amendment rights, on the basis of residency. New York State has been saying that if you lived in New York but weren't a New York State resident, you couldn't get a pistol permit, even though the U.S. Supreme Court has held that the Second Amendment right of having a gun is about self-protection. So basically the court was saying here in New York, or the law was saying here in New York, that you couldn't have self-protection unless you were a full-time resident, notwithstanding the Bill of Rights. Well, the New York State Court of Appeals today, the state's highest court, on a request from a federal court, because my cousin had sued in federal court, certified that people who are non-legal residents but are residents in New York do have a right, if they meet all the other requirements, to have a pistol permit. So it's an important victory. I think a lot of people who support the Second Amendment in particular, and the Bill of Rights generally, for residents of New York, that your rights can't be limited merely because you're not a bona fide legal resident of New York.
What's the practical impact of this, Fred?
Well, it's going to mean thousands of people who have homes in New York, second homes, but aren't full-time residents, maybe they live in Florida for tax reasons, will be entitled, if they meet the normal requirements, to have a pistol permit. In addition, it could have very big implications for New York City, which seeks to restrict the people who can have pistol permits. If you have one outside the city, you can't get one, or I'm sorry, it's not valid in New York City. There are people who believe that the implications of this decision will make it easier for people, number one, in New York City to get permits, and number two, for people outside the city who have New York State permits to bring their handguns into New York City.
And does it have any impact at all on New York's new tough gun laws?
No, it's not directly connected to it. The new gun law, the so-called SAFE Act, does recognize the right of New Yorkers who are licensed to have handguns to have those licenses, because they can't deny them. It's a federal right under the Constitution.
All right, Fred, thank you very much. And we want to remind people that Fred is on the radio. It's live from the state capitol every weekday morning from 10 to 11 on Talk 1300 AM.